Okay, we shall call this meeting to order. First of all, I would like to make a few remarks. I was honored to be at the DVSS grad this weekend, and we should be proud of all the wonderful young talent that we have in this community. As well, Mike Toder, I think he deserves a huge round of applause for boogieing the Badlands. We had 25% more vehicles this year than in the past, so I know how hard Mike worked on that, so thank you, Mike, for your commitment. And I'm not sure if you all heard, but the Chamber of Commerce here in Drumheller won the 2017 Chamber of the Year for the memberships between 151 and 350. And I'm fortunate enough to be on that committee, and I know how hard Heather, Marley, and the team work. So we should be very proud of what they've accomplished. And lastly, our rider friendly. As of 3:35, I believe we were at 4935, and Lloyd was at 4800. And the losing mayor has to go to the other community and ride the sweeper for the day. I do not want to go to Lloyd and ride the sweeper. Armia, you get your public works guys all voting, please? Because they probably don't want the mayor of Lloyd sitting in their sweeper. So if you're not already registered, go to www.riderfriendlycontest.ca. It literally takes, a minute to set up and 5 seconds once a day to vote. So I'm begging you all, because I have too much work to do and I do not want to lose a day in Lloyd. And that ends up June 2nd, so we're down to 5 days. I won't, yeah. Okay, so please vote. Okay, I'm going to read proclamation here. I've got two of them to read, and first it's the freedom of the town. So whereas Correctional Service of Canada celebrates 183 years of operation in Canada, celebrated on June 1st, and whereas Drumheller Institution of the Correctional Services of Canada opened in Drumheller 51 years ago this year. And whereas Correctional Services of Canada and its employees have enjoyed a strong relationship with the town of Drumheller and its citizens. And whereas the right to exercise freedom of the town will serve to honor the long and distinguished history of Correctional Service of Canada in Drumheller. Therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Drumheller grants the freedom of the town without end to Correctional Services of Canada. This honor provides the right to enter and march into town in the town of Drumheller. And the notwithstanding the proclamation policy, Drumheller Town Council proclaim June 1st without end as Correctional Service of Canada Appreciation Day in the town of Drumheller, dated this day, May 28th. And as well, it's Declaration of Seniors Week here. So it's Seniors Week in honor of the past, present, and future contributions of the seniors of this community and throughout Alberta. I do declare June 3rd to 9th, 2018 to be Seniors Week. So thank you to everyone at Correctional Services as well as all of our seniors in making this great community we live in. Nope, but there's a barbecue at the Seniors Lodge June 8th, Tom. So everybody's welcomed and come out and support our seniors. And also this Friday, there's a barbecue at Dr. Round's office. It's 1 year celebration, so congratulations to them. All right, so can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Fred, Jay, second, all in favor? Attached is the minutes of May 14th. Could I get a motion to adopt the minutes? Tony, second. Christine, all in favor? Oh, comments?
Not to be particular or anything, but can I just have it noted in there under the CAO, under the infrastructure, Director of Infrastructure Services, that I had actually asked about the slippery surface and the spray park and the bleachers in Midland? Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we have a delegate from the Rural Physicians and Practitioners, Laura, and welcome to Council. And the floor is now yours.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to come and share with you what RPAP or RHPAP, as we would call it now, what we are all about, and give you some background. So I've got a presentation here. Can everybody hear me? Good. Okay. I've got the presentation up, and I would like to carry on here just to let you all know who is RPAP. So RPAP was established in 1991 by the government of Alberta, and in the past 2 years it has basically changed its mandate somewhat to with a new mandate of not just being physician centric, but to kind of open it up to all healthcare providers. Has anybody ever heard of RPAP in this room? No, nobody. Okay, so basically RPAP is, there to be a voice for rural communities when it comes to healthcare. So we've always basically been very physician-centric, meaning that we've always kind of put our focus on how does small rural communities attract and retain their physicians mainly. And that is now what's changed a little bit. So now it's more for all healthcare providers. So it's not just physicians, it's basically nursing, social workers, lab techs, the whole spectrum of healthcare. And so we basically do we have a collaborative partner and trusted advocate for rural Alberta communities trying to achieve greater access to healthcare. So who is RPAP? We still refer to it as RPAP just because it sounds weird to say RHPAP. So we still say RPAP. So with our staff, we basically located throughout Alberta, helping rural Albertans build strategies to attract and retain health professionals, as I was saying, within their communities, providing accommodation to family medicine resident physicians and students from both Alberta medical schools as they study and practice medicine in rural Alberta communities. And we also enabling practicing rural Alberta physicians to acquire continuing medical education and locum programs, and rural Alberta's voice to the provincial government on issues related to rural health, workforce, and physician resource planning. So within our organization, our board of directors basically consist of, we have our representation from basically, sorry, I'm looking at 3 different things. Basically, we do have representation from the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, the CPSA, the Health Quality Council of Alberta, the College of Association of Registered Nurses in Alberta, CARNA, and we also do have from the AMA, the Alberta Medical Association, and then also the AAMDC, and also Alberta Health Services. So RPAP provides accommodation throughout rural Alberta, typically for resident physicians. The U of A and the U of C work closely with RPAP in the determination of when and where accommodations will be needed. Accommodation staff at RPAP develop strong relations with resident physicians, ensuring their housing needs are met while they complete their residency. The accommodations are also utilized when available by other healthcare providers during their educational years. For example, of this is during rural rotations by both medical students as well as nursing students. So I don't know if any one of you have ever been aware of, there's a lot of times with your physicians, there will be rural residents, medical residents that would come in and they do these rotations and they work at the clinics with one of the physicians. So that's typical, what we do is when these residents come in, they usually stay for 6 weeks to 8 weeks. So they need somewhere to stay. So we basically support them with their accommodation. We set them up, we furnish their place wherever they're going to be staying, and we basically support them in that aspect of making sure that they staying somewhere, and we sponsor them in that way. So we used to do that for just physicians, but we do that for nurses now, and as I was saying, it's kind of open to all healthcare providers. And then we have our rural locum services, which is a weekend locum coverage, which is available to physicians in rural communities with fewer than 4 physicians and is intended to ensure weekend call is no more often than 1 week in full. So for seniors, weekend locum coverage is available to physicians over 45 years of age and who have practiced more than 9 years in a rural community with less than 16 physicians. And then we also do have our skills enrichment, which is basically a variety of training programs and opportunities for rural physicians. So we basically have in 2015, 2016, over 140 week of skills enrichments for over 30 participants. So these are physicians who really want to do upgrading on the emergency skills. So it's just kind of that continuing and kind of keeping their skills to a good level, and we do offer those different programs for them. And then we also have a job shadowing program as well. So this program connects first and second year medical students with Alberta rural physicians, providing the opportunity to observe and learn a diverse and unique range of skills. So this is also organized kind of, just kind of giving them that shadowing opportunity to work with a rural physician and kind of getting that feel for practicing in a rural community. Many times physicians or residents don't understand it's so different to practice in an urban area than what it is in a rural area. The great thing about being in a rural or practicing medicine in a rural community is that you are exposed to so many different skills. So you don't just see, patients with a cold, for instance. You do actually experience, and you do gain a lot of experience from really having a huge spectrum of practice. So that is really a big bonus for especially the younger residents coming out of university to kind of start experiencing that. And also even deliveries, things like that, which a lot of clinics in urban areas are walk-in clinics. So they don't have any hospital work. Physicians don't ever go into a hospital, whereas over here they do. So they do actually experience a lot more. So one of the big areas that we do put our focus on is the rural attraction and retention committees, which is one of the big reasons why I was even here today. We basically adhere to a community development philosophy, fostering the building of stronger and more vibrant rural Alberta communities. In particular, rural community consultants provide a range of support, tools, and resources to rural Alberta communities and regions to build their capacity in the attraction and retention of healthcare professionals and their families. So basically, these committees are established to put an effort forward to see how can we not just attract our healthcare providers, but how can we retain them. So we basically really, we're there as a support. We've got the tools, we've got the resources to help and give ideas, to, do all kinds of things to work with this committee. And we've got probably about over 50 attraction and retention committees within Alberta with rural communities. And these communities do benefit greatly from these attraction and retention committees. And we also do tailor to the community's local context. So we are also amplifying the rural voice. Our new strategy is dedicated to amplifying the rural health voice. We will bring attention to more rural health workforce issues and solutions using a mix of traditional and new media. We are training our staff to contribute to our social media channels while optimizing our website and maximizing the tools such as the blog. We've got an e-newsletter that has been highly effective in reaching our stakeholders in the past. I don't know if any of you have ever looked at any of our YouTube videos that we have, but they are actually really very professional, and we do reach a huge audience of people. And I think honestly, it is a good way for people to see the community. What we do is, whenever we have a skills day event or a high school skills day event in a community, or if there's an appreciation for healthcare providers, whatever the committee does, that's of appreciation of any of their healthcare providers, we usually, whether it's pictures, whether it's a video that they do, we put it together. Our media people put it together, and they usually post it on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, just about every social media that you have out there. And we reach, like I say, a huge audience, and it's always a good way to showcase your community. People become aware of what is Drumheller, where it is, what they've done, and those are usually really important things for young students and residents to see. So our attraction and retention committees have increased and invested interest in making sure accessible healthcare services are close to home. An important focus is ensuring all healthcare providers are choosing to live, work, and play in their communities. One way to achieve success in this area is to form the healthcare provider attraction and retention committee. So according to a recent policy developed by the Alberta Chamber of Commerce, having local health services readily available has a direct impact on the overall health and sustainability of the community. And the policy also references the 2015 Rural Health Services Review, which states all Albertans deserve and require equitable access to basic health care services regardless of where they reside. So RPAP, it's really important to understand that we don't recruit healthcare providers. We just work on how do you attract them to your community and how do you retain your healthcare providers. That's the kind of support that we give. So why are attraction and retention committees important? Healthcare providers can choose to work pretty much anywhere as the demand is relatively consistent across rural communities throughout the province. So the attraction efforts help the community or region stand out as a place where the healthcare providers can see themselves working and living. And we also connect to attract the family as well, because when you do have a new healthcare provider coming into your community, it's not just that healthcare provider, but it's their family that comes with them as well. So it's really not, it's embracing the whole family. And basically your first 3 years is very critical. So when you have a new physician, a new nurse, a new social worker, I'm sure most of you will always know when there's a new doctor in town, but you all know when there's a new social worker in town maybe. So those are really important things to know, that you kind of have to not just know who the healthcare provider is, but to look at the family as well. So one of the really successful programs that we offer is called the skills events. So we have 2 different skills events. The one is based on high school students, because that's kind of where it all starts, is in high school. And we also call it Grow Your Own. So that's the high school skills event. And then we have one for post-secondary students that are already at university, already studying whatever healthcare field it is that they're getting into. So the high school event is basically based on a 1-day event for high school students in your community. It can be high schools in your surrounding area as well, where we involve the healthcare providers depending on what the need is in that community, whether it's lab techs, whether it's nursing. It doesn't matter what it is, but we usually try and showcase those careers. And we set up these skill stations for these high school students. So it's an organized event. So the students would basically work through 4 or 5 stations within the day, and they have a hands-on experience, whether it's suturing. They actually set up the station with pork hogs, and we have a physician who would basically come and teach them how to suture. And these high school students really love that. We have the EMS usually come out with their ambulance. They show them, what it looks like inside the ambulance, what they do, what does it take to become, to become a paramedic. We have all different stations set up. That's all very interesting. And these high school students basically, they become aware of the fact that it's not just a doctor and a nurse, but, there's a thing called a sonographer. They never heard of that. But those are things that you can tell them. This is what that is. Have you ever thought of that? So it really just expands their minds a little bit on different healthcare careers out there, and to answer what it is that you need to become that or to get into university for that. So it really does, it's a very positive, good experience for them. And then we have the post-secondary one, which is more focused on, as I was saying, the students already in university. So those events are more to attract these students to your community. So we focus that event on a weekend event. We work with the universities, and they usually would send, sometimes we have up to 40 students that would come to your community. We put them on a bus, they come out, and they would spend 2 days basically in your community. So it's not just a skills day, which is what we set up, very similar to the high school, but it's a little bit more detailed and set up to what it is that they're studying. And then we also have the community showcase part of the whole event, where the community would then put together a barbecue. You showcase whatever it is that your community has that you would like to show them, whatever it is that's going to attract them to maybe think about your community once they've done university. So it's kind of a little bit different than the high school skills event, but both are very positive, very well received by students, by communities, and that's definitely something that a lot of communities really love doing. And some communities like to maybe focus it around the nursing week, and they will have a nursing skills day. So, different ways of doing it. As I was talking to some of the members as we are trying to put this committee together, is, they can be creative. Like it's not up to us telling them what they need to do. It's about a community, committee members coming together, saying this is what we would like to do, being creative, coming up with their own ideas, and we are there to support them. So basically, I'm basically the consultant for this area, and at this point, there was a couple of, we are in the initiation. We've actually already got members that are willing to sit on this committee and, work on efforts and what we can do to make healthcare in Drumheller an attraction and retention as well, and different things that they can do. So basically, as I was talking to them, one of the moving forward is just to have our terms of reference together as well, because that's something that they would need to have in place before we can take our next steps, as in maybe hosting an event, a high school event, or any of those events. And I guess that's I did give them a copy of that, and I don't know, I believe that's something that should be approved by the council as well. And so I would like for you to maybe look at that or discuss that maybe afterwards, but I would leave a copy with Mayor Heather, if that's okay. And we also do have a distinction. We call it our Rhapsody Awards, which we have 3 awards that we give out. And the one is basically for the Rural Alberta Physician of Distinction. And we have one for Rural Alberta Community Health Professions Attraction and Retention Committees. And then we also have the Rural Alberta Healthcare Heroes. So these heroes can be either individual or it can be a team. And I gave the application to the committee, so they're going to be looking at that, and I believe that they will definitely put in a nomination for those awards. We also have a grant that we do give to committees, and this grant is really there in support of whether we want to host an event that goes towards your the hosting of your event. And in order to put this application forward, we need to have the terms of reference, basically. So that's kind of the first step, was getting the terms of reference in place so that they can apply for the grant as well. But so I think we have all our steps in place, but I think it's just good for everybody to know at least what we do. And I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Questions? Tom?
So how does residency work for young graduating doctors? My understanding is that when a person graduates, then they have to do a residency, but they don't really get a choice of where they do that residency. That is kind of, they are told where they are going to go, and I'm just wondering how your organization fits into that. Do you have a say in that? Can you influence so that these young people go to rural communities?
Yeah, I think so. How that usually happens is that all these residents apply and they get placed by, I think they can give up to 3 choices, their first, second, and third choice of where they would like to go. So I know that they do their best, the universities usually, to get them into their preferred choice, but I mean, it's not a guarantee. It's basically where there's going to be space available and where they can go. So I know, and unfortunately, I know a community, or even like for us, RPAP, we have no say in that at all. That is, yeah.
And a second question, you talk about you try to influence professionals coming to communities, but you have no mandate for kind of the health services, infrastructure, or any of that in the community. To me, that certainly goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
That if I'm a doctor going to a community and the community has a good hospital, has a clinic, has a nice office, has, then I am certainly kind of looking at that community over another community that doesn't have those things. So how do you get around that? I mean, there are many communities that don't have hospitals. There are many communities that don't have clinics, that don't have, like, how do you possibly get those communities to attract physicians?
Yeah, that is because the health service providing side of the whole thing is with Alberta Health Services. So it's really up to them to, when they recruit a healthcare provider to that community, that healthcare provider would fit the requirement. So whatever it is that they're looking for, let's say it's a physician that wants to do obstetrics, but that community does not offer obstetrics, then it's not going to be a good fit, because it's important for a physician to practice the skill that they have. So hopefully that it's, that is kind of that side of them trying to find the right fit for a physician or healthcare provider for that specific community. Our support comes more into not just finding the good fit, but then also to see, well, okay, so you found somebody now that fills all those requirements, but now we need to showcase that community to them to make sure that it's going to be the right community for them as well. So unfortunately, it doesn't all fall within the same organization. So you work with Alberta Health Services and you work with an organization like us. We can't really cross our lines over because we don't recruit. We can't find the healthcare provider, but we can give more attention to the community, showcasing that part of things, and hopefully they will find the right fit.
Lisa?
Thanks for coming out this evening. So just need to back it up a little bit. I'm kind of maybe not sure as to what the purpose was. So are you looking to come to the town of Drumheller to create another committee on top of the 50 that you have throughout Alberta towards attraction? Or are you here to court us to perhaps find an organization to apply for grants to host like one of your skills day events?
Yeah, so basically, I know Drumheller they've never had really an attraction and retention committee. It's a benefit to a community. So, for us, we are government funded. We are there to promote what we can offer a community. And, I think it's a great opportunity for a community to have an involvement like RPAP to support these efforts in a community. So I do believe that. So basically we basically RPAP, we can support you guys. Let's set up a committee. I know it's another committee. There's so many committees out there, but, it's always important, I think. I mean, healthcare is always a big issue. There's always a shortage. There's always, a community needs healthcare providers. So because it's really important, I think it's important to have maybe a committee that puts their focus towards how can we support our healthcare providers in this community. And we basically there to guide and support this committee to do things as attracting and retaining their healthcare providers.
Perfect. I can't agree more.
Yeah.
So I do have one other question, if you'll humor me. So in regards to the events that you have thrown in the past with skills days, do you guys track your data or stats on that to see how effective it actually is in retaining some of those students that are just going through the educational system to placing them in rural occupations?
Well, we're starting to do that actually, just because of our change in the big transition that we've been going through. Not just being physicians, but being healthcare providers. So we are definitely in the process of kind of collecting our data and, going to see how things are going to carry on and what the numbers will be for students actually coming back, whether it's a high school student returning to their grassroots, or whether it is a university student that decided to go to a community because they've done a skills day there and they really felt that that's a place they'd like to go to. But that's something that will come over time.
I'd like to see that because I think it would be a great reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, I'd just like to make a couple. So yes, I did chat with Laura just a bit before this meeting, and since we had a medical committee standing or on the task force, this group through Julia has reached out and connected with Laura, and they're not asking anything from us other than to, endorse the committee so that they can work with RPAP. So, and RPAP also has grants that they can get that we as a town are unable to get. So again, that committee can work with them on that. It was brought up in the subcommittee that we have a shortage of nurses, and that was what I was really excited to hear, was that it's not just doctors, they're, technicians, all of them that they're working towards. So, and we all know that if we can, as discussed at the task force, if we can get our cancer clinics and our dialysis and all that, if we have the services here right now, we're the shortage of nurses, so we don't have the services here to keep enhancing that. We keep enhancing that gives more people here, more people fill the houses. It solves a lot of the things. So I'm really, really excited that you guys have reached out to Julia, which in turn connected with the committee. I do get your magazine, and I noticed that Brooks gets your conference this year.
Yes.
So what do we got to do to get it next year?
Sorry, I completely forgot to mention that. Thanks for reminding me. So we do have an annual conference as well, where the last one we actually did this year in April was in Brooks. So we do give the opportunity to communities to put a proposal together to host the conference in their community, and we have a certain criteria that we go by, and then we usually would choose the community depending on whether they fit that criteria or not. And I can definitely send you the details when we have those open again for nominations. That's something that with the committee they will know exactly when the nominations is open and when they can apply for it for sure, which is fantastic. The one in Brooks was really great. It does bring a lot of members to the conference from all over Alberta, and it's a fantastic learning opportunity for communities to connect, committees to connect, because you share stories, you share success stories and struggles and challenges, and it's amazing when you actually start talking to other communities and hear what they've done, what's worked for them, and what has not worked.
Well, I just want to thank you, because it's, just when I started getting that magazine and doing some research and realizing that we're not part of that, this is exciting for our community as a whole. And I noticed you met with some of the people off the medical, and they're a very, very passionate group that definitely want to help push our community forward So saying that, you will send me those terms of reference, and then unfortunately I won't be able to get them on this agenda, and they would have to be passed by council. So it's June 11th. Is Does that date work if I get
Absolutely.
that information to you then?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I
Yes.
know that grant is coming to an end here, but would we be able to hold it off till that?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Okay,
as soon as you
perfect.
can send that in, that'll be
Okay,
great.
so I will definitely get that on the June 11th agenda.
Okay.
So thanks so much. Anybody else? Okay, well, appreciate your time and look forward to working with you more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate having the time as well.
Thanks
you.
so much. Okay, we will move on to 8.1.1 and Daryl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is bylaw 0618 is an amendment to the land use bylaw to allow for the location of cannabis retail stores within the community. We've drafted this bylaw, Palliser and us, to basically mirror what we do with liquor stores. So with respect to being a certain distance away from schools, a certain distance away from each other, confined to 3 areas within the community, so the downtown area and along the highways. So basically we are looking for first reading, and the goal will be we will have a hearing on June 25th here at Council, and what we want to do is before that is actually have the public information at the BCF sometime in the middle of June. So
Can I get a motion for first reading? Tony, seconder. Lisa? All in favor? Carried. No discussion on this. Okay, so then you'll get those dates publicized for...
yeah, we have everything's ready for letting for the 25th already, the public meeting, and we'll just arrange a time to be able to set up for sometime between the 15th of June, sort of around that time period. So
Okay, oops.
yep, no,
You got the next one?
that's good. So
8.1.2.
okay, so this is the purchase of a ladder / pumper truck. So as we have $1 million in our capital budget. It's been funded through the MSI reserve. We had on March 21st, we put a proposal out for the supply and delivery of a new truck, and it was posted on the town's website as well as the Alberta Purchasing Connection site. We had a lot of interest initially in it. We had a lot of concern from other vendors that we had basically specified a specific vehicle. And so we had to actually amend, we had to issue an addendum to say, please provide us with what you think you would, as long as it meets the general requirements. We basically took off some of the constraints around the vehicles. At the end of it, we received 2 proposals, and the 2 proposals are from Commercial Emergency Equipment Company for $1,059,961 and Rocky Mountain Phoenix for $987,560. And that's an adjusted price. They had one of the things we had asked for in general terms was a foam suppression system, and they had not included that on the original, but we had talked to them. The fire chief had spoken with them last week and provided with some extra the cost to kind of bring up to add that system. So both of these are trade show demonstration units. So what that means is that they actually build a unit to be able to take to different trade shows around the country to let firefighters and the public look at them, touch them. Not even sure if they actually operate them or not. Do they? So that you can see how far, how the ladders move up and down. But basically, they're not in-service units. So they're not, from the perspective of these, would be very low-hour units. Would be probably in a couple hundred hours. Spruce probably. Yeah, so they're pretty low units. So the 2017, this from Commercial Emergency Equipment, the Commercial Emergency Equipment provided a 2017 model. So this was basically their demo unit last year that they're now looking to sell, and the RMP unit was made in February of this year, and it's the same thing. So they're both actively listed on their websites to sell these products. So The 2017 is about 60 days from now, from the successful award, and the 2018 is October 18 because they're using it for the trade shows for this summer. So other than that, big differences. One is a single axle unit with a 107-foot ladder, and the other is a tandem axle with a 109-foot ladder. We have a tandem axle, right now, so it's not like that's a change right now. I know there had been some concerns about whether or not we would have Class 3 licenses for our firefighters in the future, but I think from our perspective that's always just a training tool that we would be able to provide to anyone that wanted to do it. So other than that, both of them are very similar. I can say that the more expensive unit is basically has all the bells and whistles, so to speak. Of course, they both have bells and whistles, but they have all of the power windows, the LED lights everywhere, as opposed to the other one's got manual windows. It has mostly LED lights, but not all of its LED lights. But essentially, other than that, they're pretty much identical. So I didn't see much. So the big one for us was that the Rocky Mountain Phoenix equipment vehicle was under our $1 million budget. I didn't see a reason in reviewing it to be able to disqualify it based on the equipment that we have. I think that based on if council wanted to recommend the commercial equipment vehicle, then I think that there's a potential that we would actually we could be sued by Rocky Mountain Phoenix because they're providing basically a 98.5% of the same equipment. And again, it doesn't have some of those fine little bells and whistles, but as far as being compliant with what we're asking for, they provide all of those things. Another option would be if we thought that we weren't happy with this, is that we could cancel the tender. We'd actually talked about that last week, and re-tender with a much more generic specification to allow other bidders. I know for me, one of the ones that is a big player in the fire truck world is Fort Garry Industries, and to not see them on the list here is a little surprising. They may not have wanted to bid, but I think if I could ask Libby, I think we had about 6 or 8 vendors that had looked through APC, so there was quite a varied range, and of course not everyone bids on these things, but so anyway, so my recommendation, or I guess our recommendation is we don't see a reason why we wouldn't award it to Rocky Mountain Phoenix. We have an award date an in-service date of approximately October. Compared to when we were first talking about this, where we had about a 12-month build date, we're certainly either option that gives us a 2018 vehicle, or a vehicle in 2018 as opposed to 2019. So other than that, I think if there's any questions.
Can I get a motion?
Motion first. Or sorry, and Bruce, do you want to say something first as part of the discussion? Come up here, please. There you go. It's good.
Like that. I had a meeting with Daryl last Friday in regard to this truck, and there are a couple of things from my perspective of 39 years in the fire department that I would like to see the commercial truck. In our discussion with Daryl on Friday, the 2 proposals put in by those 2 companies, Rocky Mountain did not include a foam system in their original proposal, which was part of what we had sent out of what we wanted. In discussions with Daryl, he asked me to phone them to be sure that it was not included, and I did do that, and it was not included on the original proposal. The number that you have, like Daryl had mentioned, is an increased number to get the same apples and apples as commercial. Because they did not put the foam system in originally, I think that should have eliminated that truck off the bat. Um, and again, in my discussion with Daryl, that was one of the things he had mentioned, that if something wasn't there that we had included, that should have eliminated it. But in saying that, um, with the people that we have and the way people are going these days, I think a single axle truck would save us in the long run operational costs in compared to operating a dual axle truck, not only in maintenance but also scuffing of the tires, that kind of thing. It would allow me to have more operators with a class 5 rather than a class 3. They still have to have a Q endorsement, and that is kind of difficult enough to ask members to go to. I think Olds College is the only other place that I know of to get Q endorsements, and it's a 2-day ordeal to do it. So again, we're asking volunteers to take 2 days off of work to go get a Q endorsement, and the majority have the class 5. I do have some individuals with class 3, but it does slow our response. This particular truck we're looking at would be a first response vehicle, so that no matter what the call is, it is going out on it. It'll be the first response to any fire situation or any fire call that we have. So it's imperative that we be able to respond quickly. There is a trend today to go to single axles by fire departments because of maneuverability. Up until about 2 or 3 years ago, only a 75-foot truck was available in a single axle. It's only been in the last couple of years that they've been able to go to 107, 109, and there's probably only 3 suppliers that have a single axle with that type of reach. The foam system is critical because of the way houses are constructed now. We have to respond so much quicker. People only have 3 minutes to get out of their houses. And at any time you watch any large structure fire in Calgary, they have at least 1 or 2 aerials or ladder trucks on those scenes for that reason of protecting exposures. And also the foam system allows water to be used more efficiently. It absorbs quicker, so you're doing less water damage. One of the other reasons that commercial is a nice fit for us is the ability to have that truck in the summertime, to be able to train on that truck in good weather rather than who knows what the weather's going to be like in October. So the other thing is, in getting this ladder truck, we are taking our number 2 pump and moving it to East Cooley and eliminating one of East Cooley's pumps. So we're basically replacing 2 units with 1 truck, saving the town possibly $300,000 more. Again, we would have better training time for East Cooley members to get used to the Drumheller truck in nicer weather rather than chancing it in October. I have put in for extrication equipment for this year's capital budget, and I would be willing to transfer that dollar figure and put it towards this truck. It is that big an issue for me that I think we can do without the extrication. And this truck has been in the works for 5 or 6 years, and I'd like to be able to get something that we're happy with 15 years or so down the road. So that could be, and I'm not sure that the entire figure, but could be $30,000 to $40,000 that we could put towards this truck and put that extrication equipment off for another year. One of the other things is commercial truck has had this truck available to us for about 8 months. We've been in a program for about 8 months of trying to get this before council with budgeting, all that kind of thing. So they've been more than fair in keeping this unit available. And I guess in closing, my position with the town is to recommend equipment, manpower, that type of thing to council. And even though I was initially involved with the RFP for the truck originally, the addendum that was put out, I had no idea what was in that addendum. In saying that, if I had an opportunity to have input, a single axle and foam system would have been the biggest requirements because of maneuverability, the access to drivers, and the foam system. So without that, it would have been basically a deal breaker, in my opinion. So that is my argument for the commercial truck being a better fit for Drumheller. And I'll take any questions if anyone has any. Tom?
So I just got a clarification first on your comment, Bruce. So the actual spec or proposals that were submitted, so for the Rocky Mountain equipment, actually the letter, the very covering letter said that they included a foam system, but I asked Bruce to follow up because we couldn't find it in the specification. So while they did say they included a foam system, they actually did. If they had not included that at all, then Bruce is correct. We would have disqualified them because that was one of the more key pieces that we had asked for. So, but with regards to things, but then when you followed up, then they did not include it in the specification. So whether it was an error on their letter or not, but their letter did say they had a foam system. So,
Tom?
Yeah, Bruce, I'm just a little curious about the single axle versus the dual axle. Are these vehicles approximately the same weight?
Close, very close to weight-wise.
So I guess I'm thinking of Wayne. I know the people in Wayne have had difficulty over the last many years getting sewer trucks, back trucks, to basically pump out their septic tanks because the trucks can only fill half full because the road allowance, the bridges don't let them fill their truck full so that they can pass over those. And so I'm just looking at a single axle versus a dual axle and wondering if a single axle would be in the same situation, that it might be too heavy for some of these bridges, some of these roads that we have in the Drumheller Valley.
From my understanding, fire trucks are exempt from road limits. So, and I can't say 100%, but it is my understanding that fire trucks are exempt from those road limits and bridge limits.
Fred?
Just as a point of order, Your Worship, in our fire procedures bylaw, a motion must be made in order for any discussion when the request for decisions come before us. So a motion's got to be made, a seconder's got to happen, and then we can have discussion.
Yep, I did ask for that, and then I got told not to. So if you want to start a motion, go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
Thanks. I will move that council approve the purchase of the ladder pumper truck for the fire department from Rocky Mountain, Phoenix, for the amount of $987,560.
Seconder. Lisa, discussion. Okay, go ahead, Fred.
Daryl, I just wanted to know what happens with the truck. The truck that you were talking about that goes to Rosedale, is that the old ladder truck?
No, it is one of our, it's a 1996 pump truck.
Okay.
So the ladder truck or Simon that we have now would be sold.
Any idea of what a return would be for that truck?
Generally, they're not that great a resale value on it. I would say maybe $5,000 to $7,000. The pump truck that is in East Cooley is a 1980 front mount 625 pump. So we're replacing it with a 1996 pump truck. I think it's a 1050 pump in it, or 1,050 gallons a minute. And the truck in East Cooley, the pump, would be sold also. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Comments? Okay, we'll just wait for Daryl. So we'll just wait for Daryl to return.
sure.
Then we'll
Yep.
carry on.
Yep.
That's all right. Lisa.
All right. So, first question I have, if I recall, when we were doing some of our budget deliberations, it was around $600,000 that they were talking about, or we were thinking for the demo unit compared to a new unit,
I believe it was about
or was it
850 or 870, something like that, for
Okay.
a demo unit that was being sort of talked about at the time.
Okay, so that's not for one of these companies that are listed here this evening.
I don't think so.
This commercial truck had originally come in at $1,059,000 for the demo. To go to a new built truck, you would be $1.3 million, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. So my other question is, because we're talking about demos, what does that do for warranty on either one of these units, or is there warranty on them?
Yeah, they both have full 24-month warranty. So they're both exactly the same for the kind of bumper to bumper, plus they have 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, depending on the component. So nothing changes because they aren't considered in service units.
Okay, so but warranties on either unit are comparable?
Yes, they're the same.
Okay. All right, well, that's all I have on that.
Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of comments first, then my questions, and then we'll see for clarification. First off, I really want to see this objective met. It's been a long time coming. But at the same time, it's also very rare for us to have public disagreement between arms of administration. So I'm going to tread as lightly as I can on some of this, but I'm concerned. Because I can tell you that if one quote was brought to us, if one response came to the tender, then I would have been leaning heavily towards canceling the tender. I never like to feel as though I'm being steered towards one particular option, and with every bit of respect that's due, when I hear words like it's been good of them to keep this available, means nothing to me. These are people selling $1 million product. If someone else wanted to buy it, they would have sold it to them. Nobody's doing us any favors. So this is a big deal, and so I just want to make sure I understand, because Daryl, you did mention that again, there are rules we must follow when it comes to purchases of this size, and if someone could make a legal case that they met the specs, because I want to make sure I do understand this point. Despite the fact that the foam component was not included originally, now it has been included, and they're still $72,000 cheaper, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that they would have the absolute right to say we're not playing by the rules of these purchasing agreements.
Correct, and they were one of the first companies to actually point out to us that these RFP was steered towards one specific company, and felt that if not changed, no one would be able to bid on it except for one company.
So, I mean, the foam part is now square, and it felt. Is it fair to say, Bruce, that to sum up your initial argument, aside from the single action portion, you're concerned that they didn't play fair in the tendering process? by
would
omitting
be,
that
yeah,
portion?
that would be my concern, that we had to phone them to confirm that they did not include it in their original proposal.
Okay. I also want to confirm, it's true that the replacement of the East Cooley truck will happen no matter which truck is purchased, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So, given that, it seems to boil down to the single axle, double axle argument, and the $72,000 difference. So, I'm curious to hear what the rest of council has to say, because I'm leaning towards voting against the motion in favor of canceling the tender.
Lisa?
I generally tend to agree with you, Jay. When it comes to the axle issue, so I'm curious on your comments of that. So I know they're not the same thing, but when I buy a horse trailer that has living quarters and I'm hauling 4 horses that has a substantial amount of weight, or when you're even buying a personal camper, one generally tends to go for at least 2 axles because it's a better unit. So I'm trying to wrap my head around why a single axle on such a large unit would be better in comparison to 2.
I can't explain that because I'm not a mechanic, but it is a trend in all of the fire service now to try to get as much height with a single axle for speed of response, maneuverability, ride, wear and tear on the vehicle, the transmission tires with the dual axle. That's all I can speak to.
Okay. Personally, I think that considering all of the background that's going on with this, it might be in our municipality's best interest to cancel this and resubmit it out for tender. I mean, the money's there. We're going to get a new truck or demo truck, as the case may be. And I think just to keep everything on a level playing field, that would be the option I would prefer to go.
Tony?
Thanks for your presentation here, Bruce. And I agree with Jay. This is long overdue, and we need to move forward with it. But I'm hung up on the axle issue here too, and I can't get my head around a tandem not being as good as a single. Do we know for sure how it was tendered for a single axle, or was that a requirement?
It was not. No.
There was no axle requirement.
No, it didn't specify. And again, I went through these proposals. Like, there's nothing in there that specifies must be single axle or tandem axle, or just it talks about weight, talks about maneuver or turning radius. They both are very similar in their turning radius, so it didn't discuss. Again, when you look at these things, they're very similar in terms of what both products are.
Okay, well that's my hang up too, is the axle issue there, and looking at the bridges to Wayne there, and I know fire trucks would be exempt, but doesn't matter on the weight displacement, single axle, tandem axle, you're still going across that bridge. And in my mind, I would think a tandem for those purposes would distribute weights far better than what our single would. Yeah, we would be giving up on maneuverability and stuff. There's probably sacrifices on that, but I don't know. I would, with the potential discrepancy in price there, I would have to say that we would look to cancel and retender if that's the way it would be. And I do respect your opinion there, Bruce, on which unit, but like I say, it comes down to the rules of playing on the playing field there, and that would support the other one as well. So.
Okay, any more comments, Fred?
I had a question. If we retender, how long is the process?
This went out in March. It closed in mid-April, and then a review was a few weeks. So it's about 45 to 60 days.
Okay.
Tom?
I guess my last comment would be, I can't see us spending $1 million on a fire truck that the fire department doesn't want.
Christine?
And just for some clarification, so if we do go back to tender, are we going to make that single axle one of the priorities now for bidders?
I would hope it would be, yes.
I think what we would do is we'd actually look at this. What we received was basically a manufacturer spec. What we would look is actually our own specs. We would have things like, if we're going to do single axle, that it would say must be single axle, must be minimum feet, must be minimum weight or maximum weight. So
Okay, so then we can assure that we can get everything that Bruce is hoping to see, considering they're using the vehicle. So that's good.
again, from my perspective, it's not about whether or not one's better than the other or whatever, but from a legal standpoint, which is my job to protect all of us, is that there was no reason at all, based on what we've had, that you wouldn't accept a lower bid. So again, if we want to, if council's thinking that they don't want to accept this and go to tender again, then we would redraft it so that it's open for everybody to look, so we don't hopefully get more than 2 bids, and that we actually have something that we can come back confidently to council to say, we think this is the right choice based on everything we've done.
Any more discussion, Lisa?
I'd just like to say that I think that would be the right decision, considering it was the extraction equipment that you feel our department also needs.
Again, that portion of money I would be happy with putting it towards the truck if that was an option.
Fair enough. I don't want to see that happen. I think that you probably need that extraction equipment. That's why it's on the list, and I'd like to see the department get the truck that they need as well. So I feel that the best process is to go towards a cancellation on this.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so we need to vote on the motion that's on the floor. So, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? All against? Carried. So could I have a new motion asking for another RFP to go out on the fire truck? New motion. Go ahead.
You have 2 choices that way.
Jay.
If we actually require a motion, Your Worship, then I do move that we direct administration to go back and retender this.
Seconder, Lisa. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. All right, Bruce.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you guys for coming out and clarifying, and it's better that we take the time, do it right, know exactly what everybody's looking for, than us make decisions and, okay, we appreciate that. Thanks for your understanding. Okay, we will go on to 8.1.3.
Your Worship, this is request for sponsorship of the Canadian Badlands Passion Play 21st Annual Golf Tournament. So, for over 20 years, the Passion Play has hosted an annual golf tournament as a fundraising event for their organization. The town of Drumheller has historically sponsored the event, and in 2017, the town provided $1,000 in sponsorship for this event. The golf tournament has requested a similar level of sponsorship for their upcoming tournament on June 18th of this year. So, recommending that council approve the sponsorship of the Canadian Badlands Passion Play 21st Annual Golf Tournament in the amount of $1,000.
Motion, Tom?
Yeah, I move that council approve the sponsorship of the Canadian Badlands Passion Play 21st Annual Golf Tournament in the amount of $1,000.
Seconder, Lisa. Comments, Tom?
My understanding, first of all, was that traditionally the town over the years sponsored $500 hole sponsorship. And this allowed the town to have a sign on a golf hole and allowed one golfer to golf on behalf of the town. Anyway, that being said, we all know the Canadian Badlands Passion Play is a very valuable attraction to the valley, that it annually brings in thousands and thousands of tourists who spend upwards of $1.5 million. The golf tournament basically fundraises for the Passion Play, and all the money raised from the golf tournament goes to the Passion Play. The golf tournament also, of course, helps the golf course, and the golf course is a non-profit, locally owned and operated attraction that also brings people into the town of Drumheller. Both of these attractions, we know, are not doing all that well financially. I mean, the Passion Play is kind of hit and miss each year. I mean, some year it makes a little money and some years it doesn't. The golf course is not doing very well financially, and it has not for the last few years. And it would be a definite loss to the town of Drumheller and the valley if either of these attractions were to fail. And it would cost the town a lot of money if either of these attractions were to fail. I would like to actually propose that the town go back to its whole sponsorship, which is basically a $500 sponsorship, which gets the town advertising on one of the holes of the Passion Play Golf Tournament and allows for one member of the town, and I think some of the council have golfed in the tournament on behalf of the town in the past. So that would be my comment.
Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know you're deeply involved in the both organizations, in particular as it relates to the operation of the golf tournament, Tom. But just so you know, I did contact them and ask for specific information about the levels of sponsorship this year. And the minimum level of sponsorship is now $1,000, and that gets you one tournament registration. So I know what you're looking for, but that it would, for the information I got from the person coordinating that part of the fundraising arm, a $500 donation was not an option. That would still, I'm sure they would take any donation that we wanted to give, but it didn't include a registration. Just so you're clear. And Barb did furnish us with some information, so we did do $1,000 in 2017, and it looks like we did $800 in 2015. Specifically to the tournament, and so my only concern about this, because I would believe that there may be records going back further, that I think my memory is a lot like yours. I'm remembering the first few times you and I were involved once we got in council, and I do believe our sponsorship level was down at that $500 mark. So it might go back all the way to 2010. My only concern about not doing this is whenever we have supported something in the past, the withdrawal of that support accidentally sends a message, and it might not be a message we're planning to send. And so this thing that was discussed needed to be publicly discussed so that we're publicly on the record about why we would not provide that level of support.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm actually quite sure that there is a $500 sponsorship.
Anybody else? Okay, so the motion's on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Barb. 8.3.1.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the request for decision before you is for the waiver of the Sandstone Manor, the municipal portion of the property taxes applicable to Sandstone Manor. This is an annual request, and it forms part of a contract between the town and the housing authority signed in May of 2009 that states property taxes would be exempt from municipal taxation. The property would be. The legislation doesn't allow the town to make a ongoing exemption, which requires then a motion each year. This year's municipal tax levy is $9,972.15, and the operating budget that was adopted includes a provision for the waiver of this property tax.
A little rusty at this deputy mayor stuff. Can we get a motion to that effect? Jay?
Thank you. I move
Do
that
I get a seconder?
it's an RFD, so I'll read the whole motion if that's okay. I'd move that council approve the cancellation of the 2018 municipal tax levied against roll number 040299906 Drumheller Housing Administration in the amount of $9,972.15.
The seconder? Tom? All in favor? Oh, discussion. Jay?
Thank you. This has been something that has, again, as Barb made quite clear, comes up annually just because we don't have the legal wherewithal to make it a permanent exemption. But for anyone who hasn't been through this before, the town doesn't collect taxes on the BCF. We don't collect taxes on the curling rink. We don't collect taxes on town hall or the town shop. We don't collect taxes on any property we own. And the operative word in the RFD is this was part of the contract with DHA, and 2 administrations ago tried to get out of that, and that's why it's kind of a passionate thing for me, because the board of DHA does expect the town of Drumheller to live by the contracts that it signed with that body, and so it would absolutely send the wrong message if we were to not abide by the contract we signed. But even more importantly, the RFD leaves out a really important detail about what happens as a result. It's, as you're well aware, with Sandstone managed under the affordable housing platform, our mandate is to be at least 10% below market rent, and we are achieving that. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, I think we're right now around 15 or 16% below market rent. But more importantly, not only are we providing this affordable housing strategy to the residents of Drumheller, but more than that, the building's been operated so efficiently that we're able to take what would have been paid in property taxes and then some in almost every year since I've been involved, since 2010, and make a significant reserve payment. So if those taxes were collected and went into general revenue, the ability for DHA under its current rent strategy is the only way for us to collect revenue, is that we wouldn't be able to make a significant reserve payment at all. Right now, we're currently on track for our budget to make a $15,000 reserve payment for 2018's operations. And just to refresh everyone's memory, I don't believe the reserve was built prior to my installation as the chair in 2010. But since that time, in the last 7 years, we've built a reserve in excess of $100,000. That money is meant to not only be a sinking fund towards major renovations that will, of course, be required by the building someday, new roof, etc., but also meant to be ideally seed money for additional housing projects going forward. So if we're collecting taxes, then it would have a significant impact on DHA's ability to make that reserve payment.
Good, thank you. Any other discussion? We can have a vote on the motion then. All in favor? I guess none opposed. You're carried. Back to you. I'm doing the next one. Okay. So, 8.3.2. Per diem request ICC liaison. If we could have a motion.
Oh, sorry, Barb. Take her
you.
away.
Thank you. So this request for decision before you is a formality regarding payment of a special per diem as per Council Policy CO414. As you're aware, in the 2018 flood event of April, Mayor Colberg had taken on the role of liaison in the Incident Command Center. And the policy that I spoke of, Article 4.4, states that in such case where local state of emergency is declared, anybody within council or mayor that performs any duties related to the EOC is eligible for a per diem. So with the event, a SOL was issued on April 23rd. The Incident Command Center was initiated on Monday, April 23rd, and ceased operations end of day Wednesday, which Mayor Kohlberg had served and is eligible then for 3 days per diem. And it just requires council approval by motion for me to process that payment.
Okay, call for a motion to that effect. Tom? Seconder?
I move to approve 3 days per diem for Mayor Kohlberg, April 23rd, 25th, 2018, as per policy number C-04-14, Article 4.4.
We have a seconder? Christine? All in favor? Oh, discussion.
So what is the per diem for a mayor? About $6,000 a day?
Can I pick?
We've got a challenger.
I just want you to know I didn't put this on the agenda, so I just want to make it clear that this was not me bringing it forward. Okay?
It's the same daily rate as everyone at $250. Yeah.
Okay. Jay?
Thank you. I certainly don't begrudge the mayor this compensation, but I'm curious. In 2013's event, the mayor and I both were in the operations center for 4 days, I think, and we applied for the same compensation from the DRP and were denied. That sort of compensation is not eligible under the disaster recovery program, and as a result, we received nothing. So I'm curious, has that changed?
I'll get back to you on that because I'm not aware that that was denied. So I'll do some research for you. It was
then
before
Terry kept
me.
my money. Which I doubt very much.
I only went to the policy. Like I saw the policy that I brought it forward based on the policy, and my understanding it is eligible over time because it would be a non-standard payment. So in DRP claims, any overtime claims are eligible, and so this wouldn't be deemed according to our policy. And I'm not sure when the policy was drafted.
I have a sneaking suspicion that particular amendment might have happened after 2013
to make sure that
it was
compensated.
exactly. Yes. So I'm not suggesting that our reimbursement for it should be contingent on its being paid. Merely bringing up the fact that it was denied in the past, and so I want to make sure that we do whatever we need to do to make sure it's not denied going forward.
Okay, any other discussion? We could have a vote. All in favor? Carried. Opposed? There was none. Okay, back to the mayor.
Okay, we are going to go into closed meeting for labor 14.1, FCSS staffing. Can I get a motion to go into Lisa, seconder Tom, all in favor? Carried.